The very first newspaper in Springfield began publishing in April of 1837, and it was called the Ozark Standard. And it was only up for a short time, and then it became the Springfield Advertiser in 1844 in May of that year. And then the first publication of the Springfield Leader, which is one of the papers today, began in 1867. Was another one, significant one there. And then, of course, the first train to come into Springfield on the railroad line came in April of 1870. And in 1887, the voters of Springfield and North Springfield voted to merge the two cities. So Springfield and North Springfield became one unified city in April of 1887. So that was a big event. And then there was silly things like ping pong was introduced in April of 1902 by a group called the Young Society Women. And they introduced ping pong in the city. And 1926, in April, the first performance of the Kilties Drum Corps from Central High School. They marched in the Rotary Parade in April of 1926. That was their first performance. That was one of our Richie Robertson's developments as band director for the city of Springfield.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the fact that Springfield was two separate things?
Yeah, when the railroad came here, they because of the necessity of having as level a roadbed, as level a track as possible, they had to be about 1.25 miles north of the square. And the city had known that since the 1850s when they'd done the first railroad survey. And the railroad came through and told them that they were going to have to come north of the city. But if the city would build a depot, they would run a spur track down off the main line to connect the city with the main line. By the time the railroad came back in 1869 and said, we're getting close, they'd had the Civil War, there'd been financial trouble with the railroad, they had delayed them for like 12, 14 years. And so by the time they came back, the Springfield had quadrupled in size. It was a county seat. It had been a major outpost for the government during the Civil War. And they felt like the railroad had to come to them. And a group of young entrepreneurs, led by a man named Sempronius Boyd, went to the railroad and said, why don't you work with us and we'll help you build a new city. You need a place about where this is to refresh and restore the engines and so on. Why don't you work with us and we'll develop a new city? And so they did, and that city became North Springfield, and that's why we have a division street. Division Street divided Springfield and North Springfield for those 17 years that there were two separate cities, and they competed in everything. Anytime one or the other of them got something, whether it was a building or a business or a streetcar or whatever, the other one had to have two of them or a bigger one. It was like two kids in the schoolyard trying to outdo each other for those 17 years. And ultimately they saw the light and merged together. But it really had a lasting effect on the city as far as north side and south side perspective. But it also set the city on a path to future greatness because of all of the infrastructure that had been developed just in trying to outdo each other. So it really turned out it turned out to be a good thing ultimately in the end. But they merged in 1887, and from that day on, they were just the city was on the go and never stopped.